Sid was taking a take a quick photo grab, quick photo to trying to sneak that in there. The producer in studio today, another one. Why is it coming through like that? And another dude. We're getting this is the
Just don't speak
paparazzi.
loudly. Use your inside voice.
I know. It's impossible for me. It's impossible. Pass me the rock. What's today's date? 21st, 20th?
20th. 10,
The 20th. We're back. We're showing a little bit of consistency. That's gonna drive me crazy. Hold on one second. You solo pilot the show
All right,
for
well,
a
yeah.
little bit
Well,
here.
I mean, we're back. It's October 20th, officially spooky season. I'm gonna be an inflatable T-Rex for Halloween, I think. Like with a little fan in the back, because I don't know if that's for coolness or to keep it inflated, but
If you do that, Jerry, I will. I would probably lose my mind.
it's already happening. I've already ordered it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
cost me $50. Got it on sale. It's
50
supposed to be
bucks?
90.
I'm gonna freak out when I
It's
see
on
you walk out
Amazon.
in that. I'm gonna freak out.
Something
I
might
want
be
to be
going
Abraham Lincoln. Either that or Wolverine. I haven't.
I was considering that,
decided.
or I was almost also considering just doing like a full hockey getup. So like rollerblades, big sweater,
Right.
buy a quick helmet. It sounds like a you problem. It's not doing that to me.
I don't know. Yeah. It must just be my voice. I was gonna say, well, it makes sense that you'd go as a hockey guy because you got the whole playoff beard going, and you've been growing out for a while. We've both been growing out our beards. Mine's more of a. I know I'm not supposed to be a Red Sox fan, but mine's more of like a Red Sox playoff type of Abraham Lincoln. See how far I can. Really, the real reason I have this beard right now is just because I want to see how far I can get it to go, and it's because the weather's getting a little bit colder. Starting to become NBA season. Actually, NBA tip off was last night. Good game between the Bucks and the Nets. Was it?
Yep.
Yeah. And Giannis has a jump shot now. We want to talk about that. We want to get into. Let's
Better than
talk
Russell
NBA
Westbrook.
first. Oh yeah. Difficult game for the Brody.
How about my guy Ben Simmons? Speaking of no jump shots,
we should probably talk about Ben Simmons first,
he
right?
Stinks. Yeah. Like him getting thrown out of practice. Why even show up if you're not even gonna participate? And you're still forfeiting money if you do it. Like they're gonna fine you. You're not even playing games. He's acting foolishly right now.
And the thing that was the most hilarious to me was the fact that the actual description of the situation itself, where he says he didn't want to do a defensive drill. Doc Rivers says, I think you should really go home. And then Ben Simmons just drops the ball and leaves.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the most pettiest stories I've ever heard.
I think you should go home. Well, Doc, I wholeheartedly agree. I'll see you later. Maybe we can grab a little dinner sometime.
Drops the ball. I doubt it went down that way.
I'm sure it didn't. I'm sure there were choice words that aren't suitable for the airwaves. But no, I mean, yeah. No, it's unreal. This is all Ben Simmons' fault. This is all Ben Simmons' fault. He stinks. It's been a falling out, and that's Philly, though. That's Philly. If you're successful there, they love you. But if you're drafted number 1 overall
and you make one mistake,
you have the same exact issues that you did 6 years ago, and you also consistently get hurt, and you're kind of whiny like he is right now, they're going to come after you.
I will say
that's
this:
the market they play in.
I will say this about Ben Simmons, and that thing's going to drive me crazy before we're done. And I will figure out the problem before we're done recording the show. The thing about Ben Simmons is the more the situation pans out, the less I feel bad for him. So I started off. I know last show I said that this is this is driving me crazy.
Well, yeah, no, but I mean, I guess I'll just continue to. No, but yeah, it's a disaster. Joel Embiid's like, I'm not babysitting you. Like, I don't know. It just really doesn't. It's all, and like we were saying last week, there's no suitable trade partner out there. Nobody's going to give up any type of value for this guy. Like, there's no contender that's like, we're Ben Simmons away. There's no young team that's like, oh, we got some young pieces to deal. We got draft picks to deal, and we want Ben Simmons to be our guy for the future. He's got to be,
especially now with
he's got to be 24, 25 at this point.
Especially with this story coming out now, where he's actively choosing not to participate in drills and dropping balls on the floor. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys or anyone that's listening to this. I mean, right now that's a horrible look for anyone's trade value. That's incredibly bad.
Incredibly. And if you're trying to deal a guy like him doing it's not a good look. I mean, James Harden is really the only other one that's like
that did that successfully,
comparable in the last couple of years, but Ben Simmons is not.
Counterpoint, Harden did end up on a contender,
but that's because teams wanted him. Like the Nets were like, oh, we're James Harden away.
I think there's still room in the situation. There's still room in the situation where Ben Simmons, I think he still has trade value, obviously, because he's a tremendous talent. Till the day I die, I will maintain the fact that Ben Simmons is a certified talent. To quote Stephen A. Smith,
good.
The brother can ball. You know what I mean?
But is he worth like the Nets traded James Harden because James Harden traded for James Harden because he's a top 5 player, undisputed top 10, probably top 5 player in the league. like you're willing to give up value to take that guy on because he takes you to the next level. The Nets were already at that level, and if healthy, Harden takes them to that next level.
Mm.
There's no team out there. Like, what team right now is like a superstar away from a championship? The
Well, that
Warriors,
is what we
maybe.
talked
Like, if you
about.
add Ben Simmons
We
to
talked about
them,
that last show.
no,
There's
like,
not
yeah,
a team that's that piece away. It might have to be a Brooklyn situation because actually a report came out recently that precisely the reason why Brooklyn traded for
Harden.
Harden was because they were a little bit unsure about Kyrie. I'm not saying something like that has to happen, but what I'm saying is if some team does want to actually end up trading for Ben Simmons, it's going to have to be a situation like Brooklyn where they just completely strip all of their depth and
I mean, like,
sacrifice one of the cornerstones of their team.
I
I mean,
mean,
that's
like,
just this plain and simple the situation.
the Lakers make sense because LeBron likes him for some reason, and but they already have a point guard that can't shoot.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would just be literally adding to the MO of the Lake. You know what the Lakers have
But
done?
like they would
these
have
last...
to give up Westbrook too to get Simmons, and is Westbrook the type of guy that Philly wants back? I don't think
No.
so.
Well, that would
Maybe I'm
actually be a
wrong.
downgrade. That would be a monumental upgrade for the Lakers, and that would be a downgrade for the
But is that a downgrade you're
76ers.
willing to make? Like the Celtics
Oh,
got rid of
absolutely not.
Kyrie and brought in Kemba. I think
Absolutely
that
not.
was a downgrade that they were 1,000% willing to make.
Absolutely not.
Kemba's
But
not Kyrie,
just a quick. Well,
Thank God he's
Kemba
gone.
is good in other areas, and I'll maintain the fact that I think off the court he's a much better asset than
but
Kyrie.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
so
why
there's
they're
other
like,
parts
thank God we
yeah.
can deal without
Right.
you as long as we have some type of production
yeah.
at that spot. We're fine.
I know what you're saying. And also just a sidebar about the Lakers. Tell me this is not true. The last couple of years, or maybe the last few years, they've kind of formated themselves into a team like the Yankees. You know what I'm saying? Because the Yankees are known for their hitting power, not so much for their contact, but for their deep arms in the outfield. And each year they kind of roll out this similar squad of guys, despite making these big name
Big
signings.
difference. Big difference. Lakers have won in the last year.
That's what I'm. Yeah, take success out of the picture, but it's kind of funny how it's like, oh yeah, we're talking about a potential situation where the Lakers sign another point guard that can't shoot. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, we've seen this before.
And they just bought a Rondo that can dunk.
Yeah.
And like yells really loudly. That's basically what
Yeah.
they just did. He's
And
gonna pat a statue.
they got a Mellow that, and Mellow's obviously has a little bit more value. I just like the Mellow that yells, I can't say it on air, but
yeah.
F out of here, I got it.
What I love about Russell Westbrook is inevitably he's gonna make the list for LeBron, the list that of people that LeBron has in his doghouse.
You talk about the meme where LeBron's like looking menacingly over at him. He's like, let's see for the season,
Russell
right?
Westbrook through one game, he's going to make the list. I think he's going to make the list in record time. I think it took Kevin Love like 2.5 months. Westbrook's going to smoke that. But this is all, he's going to come back in February and he's going to have like 15 games where he has like 10 triple doubles, and over the course of 15 games we're going to be like, oh, Westbrook, and then he's going to come out in like April, May during the playoffs and he's going to shoot like 25% from the field, and we're going to be like, that's the guy that we've been waiting for.
I want to pose this question, right? Because we kind of know that the way I saw this Instagram post was actually pretty interesting and I think pretty true. That Russell Westbrook, usually the way his seasons go, barring I think the season with the Rockets, he usually has this bell curve where he kind of starts off pretty bad and then maybe he like warms up to the season. I want to pose this question to you, Jerry. Obviously, I can't remember the deal that was made or the dimensions of his contract or anything like that. Do you think Russell Westbrook is still a Laker by the trade deadline?
Yeah. I don't think they'd trade him before the offseason. I mean,
what if he really like stinks? Or excuse me, not the trade. Yeah.
The only issue is if you're gonna trade Westbrook, what are you doing to bring in? Because like I think it's been proven in the NBA that stars win. Like your depth is your depth, but you need those three guys that are top 15, 20 players. Is Westbrook that? I'm not sure.
No.
But like if you get rid of Russell Westbrook, right?
Yeah.
So you still have LeBron, Anthony Davis, and then theoretically a guy like who's the guy that they'd bring in that they'd say we're a better team moving forward? Because I don't know if that guy is going to be available at the trading deadline. You can wait until the offseason when some more point guards hit the market, and then you can sign one and trade Westbrook to another destination. But like I think they brought in Westbrook because they had a hole that they needed to fit.
And he's a big name.
Best guy available. And if somebody's available at the trade deadline, they were probably available last offseason too, because the closer you get to that trade deadline, the closer you get to that contract expiring, the less valuable you are to other teams in terms of trade value.
Right. And the older that Russ gets, a guy like Russ gets, I'd
Yeah,
imagine.
I mean, I don't think his age now compared to February is going to make that much of a difference.
No,
but,
no, no.
like,
I'm
if
just saying,
they
you know, the teams, if they're gonna like, let's just say the Lakers actively shop him out before the trade deadline. Excuse me. His age is definitely going to play a part in that, and it could be for the better. You know, maybe we sign him, we get him for I don't know how long his contract is going for, but maybe we get a quick boost in the the stats department until this guy decides he wants to retire, or it's like, hey, we don't want to. We're a young and up and coming team. Let's just say the Knicks, and we don't want an older guy coming in and we want longevity. But I almost think Russell Westbrook, and I wanted to talk about
and this
this.
is all off of one game too.
This is all,
Overreaction.
we're being classic
This is all
NBA
sports,
fans here.
yeah.
We're being classic
But-
NBA fans. We go off of one game and then we speculate.
But
What his
he
legacy
hasn't-
is going to be like as a player.
He hasn't fit with other superstars his
Oh,
entire
he hasn't.
career.
He hasn't. Well,
I mean, Kevin
that's
Durant left. James Harden couldn't deal with him anymore, so they shipped him
that's
out.
that's what I
Now
wanted to say.
he
That's what
couldn't
I
fit
wanted to
with
get
Beal,
into.
So now he's here.
He's a big name, and on the surface, and I will maintain this about Russell Westbrook as a player. On the surface, it makes sense to sign him, but when you really look at what he does for a team, all his teammates like him, and he pulls guys aside at times, and you could see he sort of mentors guys, but not all of his teammates like him. But the ones that I've heard, they really have nice things to say about him. But again, in the NBA, that doesn't really. I mean, like you want a guy that's going to get you wins. I don't think Russell Westbrook is that guy. So if the Lakers get rid of him, and they don't have to get another point guard, it could be another asset just in general. I almost think there's a conversation there you could have for saving some space. Because to me, it's like Russell Westbrook right now. I don't know what he's doing. And again, it's been one game, but based off of one game, my thoughts are kind of I feel vindicated because to me, signing a guy like Westbrook, excuse me, it's always been about what he's going to do for you. And at this point in his career, I mean, he's good for Showtime.
I mean, it remains to be seen, and we're short on time, so we got to move on eventually. But
Wow, we're talking about this for 10 minutes.
so it remains to be seen, obviously, but it didn't really make sense from day one. And I mean,
it never
last night
makes sense.
It didn't look good, but yeah, he's just not a player that's built for the modern NBA. And now you have two superstars. You're just looking for that third complementary piece. I don't know if
it was a
Westbrook
bad
is that
move.
guy.
It was a bad move.
It's not that it's a bad move.
I
It's
think it
just
was.
that like it was a move that didn't make too much sense. But at the same time, they had to go get one, and that was the guy that they.
I'm gonna be interested. I hope he proves me wrong.
There
and
wasn't much superstar movement over the offseason.
No, there
really
wasn't. It was pretty quiet. It was pretty quiet. But I hope he proves me wrong. I know back when I did the Spreading the Floor podcast, my co-host always used to like to call me a Russ hater. But we'll see if he proves me wrong. I hope he does. And yeah, I guess we could with that. You wanna move on? I mean, it was a fun NBA game to watch. I caught a little bit of the Bucks game. I'm looking forward to it, obviously, as a fan and live stream and hopefully some big marquee games in the future.
My eyes were locked in on the baseball.
Yeah, so you want to talk? I know you're the baseball guy in the room.
All of
it. Really fun playoffs thus far.
Yeah, I would say yesterday turned the tide of both series, and what I mean by that is that the teams that won yesterday aren't going to necessarily win, and it was the eighth inning of both where the two teams, the Red Sox and the Braves, had the opportunity to kind of close their opponents out, and they failed to do so. Because if you go up 3-0, 3-1 in a series, barring something unforeseen, it's over. But
yeah,
like if the Braves took a 3-0 lead, that's it. If the Red Sox took a 3-1 lead and they have another game today at Fenway to close it, but neither team could close it out. And now all of a sudden the Dodgers and the Astros are right back in it. It's 2-2 with the Red Sox and the Astros. It's 2-1 with another game in LA today. I again, people are talking about it all day. The umpire in the ninth inning blew the call that would have ended the inning, and instead it extended the inning, and the Astros scored 7 runs, and the rest was history. But
yeah, but you could say a bunch of what ifs. I mean, we were talking about that with the Pats the other day. You remember? It's like, well, you talk about the blown calls, but also the Pats.
Red Sox left 11 runners on base yesterday. And sure, let me say this too before I get into what was wrong. The umpire behind the plate yesterday, it was like literally like the second worst umpire in all of baseball in terms of like balls and strikes. He missed 23 balls and strikes last night.
Yikes.
12 and 11 for each team. So it was an even, it wasn't like one team was favored over the other. It was bad. But he should never have been near a playoff game. And like all the numbers are there for the MLB in terms of how accurate these guys are. So I don't know why they don't pick just the best X amount of umpires they need
and just toss them to the playoffs.
But back to it, the Red Sox left 11 guys on base last night. Their offense was dormant after the first inning.
It's inexcusable.
I think they had like 3 hits before the ninth inning. You play with fire, you're going to get burned. And if it ends up being like if you end up putting the game in the hands of the worst umpire in baseball, you're asking for it.
That was the same thing I said with, and I don't mean to bring it back to basketball, but I am going to bring it back for a second. So just bear with me here. Donovan Mitchell. I remember when he was complaining about that call. I can't remember after. I don't think it was after a playoff game, but it was a really horribly officiated game. Really, I might be reaching here, but I'm asking you to try to remember the game that I'm talking about. He comes out after the game, and I'm just using this as an example. Comes out after the game. Oh, these refs, man, these refs are horrible. They're ruining the game. We could have had that in the bag, and for sure, yeah, they could have had it in the bag if some calls hadn't gone their way. And I think that's been a concurrent theme. I mean, we're both Celtics fans, right? So we know when a ref can really, really blow you a game. Especially, I remember that one Celtics versus Portland game.
But yeah,
that was really bad. I think in modern sports, and I hear all these complaints about the umpires. I'm not calling you out for this, but I agree with you where it's like, are you really going to leave it up to the umpires? You should play a tailored type of game where it shouldn't even be a conversation about, if it comes down to the last. And I get it's competitive baseball, it's playoff baseball, but at the same time, I think you almost have to tailor your game. And there's different sports have different ways of doing this. I mean, baseball, it's a little bit harder with the strike zone as opposed to basketball where you can be less physical or more physical. You kind of have to tailor your game, I feel like, around knowing that the fact that the umpiring or the reffing is going to be horrible.
But that's the issue is that like these guys are paid. Like the umpire strike zone was wide all night, which was fine. It was fairly consistent at least. There was a lot of pitches off the plate that he was calling strikes, but he was consistent about it. He was giving the pitchers a very wide strike zone until the specific situation where he didn't. And it's like, again, he missed 23 balls of strikes, but if you look at his chart, he was calling the same pitch as strikes all night. My issue with it was that this one exact pitch crossed the plate, and now all of a sudden you're gonna shrink the zone. And here's the bottom line: if the umpires are bad, they shouldn't be umpiring the biggest game. Like, why is an umpire like Laz Diaz last night, whose numbers were bad amongst all umpires all year, Angel Hernandez, like if I know your name, it's probably because
you're not
umpire. Good,
right? It's like editing. You're not supposed to know they're there,
right? Like I don't understand because again, like game aside, like people are talking about this morning. Why do you, as the MLB, do this to yourself? Like they shouldn't be noticed. They should just call good games. Like I'm not, and again, it's a hard job. I'm not saying it isn't, but like when you put bad umpires in and they perform badly, as the MLB, you're doing it to yourself.
The onus falls on you. And I wonder what that comes down to. Like, do they? I'm sure they get guys from the college level and coming up from high.
It's experience.
You gotta. There's got to be some sort. I'm not going to claim to know. I'm not going to claim to know how the natural progression of getting up to the majors when you're a ref works, but
it's similar, I think, to being a player. Like
you just go high school, college,
like you build your.
Well, maybe there could be more of an infrastructure in place where there's a system where they're more rigorously tested on things or like game situations. Like I get that, we were talking about it because we went to Brandon and I went to a soccer game the other night, and the ref, we were talking about it. I think in any universal sporting situation, if you have a big, let's say, obviously a playoff game, right? Sox versus Astros, you have millions of fans screaming at you because they want the play called a certain way. Let's be honest, fans are very, oh, he did this, she did this. My team's correct. My team's not correct. Your team's not correct. When you're a ref and you have those fans screaming at you, I can only imagine what that does. But
you're paid to be there. You're paid to be there. We were talking about last week from Mahomes. It's like you're paid
at the same time. That money. Just give me a second. At the same time, I agree with you. You're being paid to be there. So, hey, if you're the MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, let's make sure our refs, in whatever fashion possible, are accustomed to handle those situations and their conduct is up to code.
The bottom line is, in baseball, there's a number for everything. And now with these umpire, like the RoboZone is present, and MLB might go to it one day, but people use the RoboZone. So the numbers are there as to what's actually a strike and what's actually a ball. Like you could see it. Like there's numbers there. So you can tell there are numbers that like how accurate somebody is, how consistent someone is. So like you can grade people's performance just based on the stats. Like,
right.
The numbers don't lie. This guy's numbers stink. And then when you watch the game last night, you're like, yeah, he's calling pitches.
Yeah.
It's like watching a Little League baseball game. How big, like in the major leagues, the strike zone should be the strike zone. And that pitch, and again, the Red Sox gave up 7 runs after this pitch last night. So if they'd held it to 1 or 2, they keep themselves in the game. But the wheels came off. The bottom line is that call changed the game because if he calls that strike 3, they're out of the inning and it's a tie game going into the bottom of the ninth, as opposed to it's called a ball, the guy singles on the next pitch, and then the wheels come off. And again, if he just singled on the next pitch and the Red Sox gotten out from there, they're still in the game. But just allowing that extra pitch to happen, it changes the whole game. And again, what the Red Sox did last night was self-inflicted, but bottom line is on these types, and it happens all the time across all sports, these guys get in the way and they become part of the story when they shouldn't.
Yeah. Well, also to just play devil's avocado, it kind of adds a fold of excitement, doesn't it? Or stress, depending on how diehard of a fan you are.
Avocado?
I say devil's avocado instead of advocate.
Got it.
Devil's avocado.
That's my own.
I forget. I'm not on the JCS right now. Can't just be using JCS lingo. No, to play devil's advocate, I think it also adds, and I actually agree with you. I think if they're having them at that, if they're having an umpire at the highest level, he should be trained, seasoned. He should have done that before a million times, or just at least have some sort of experience in the postseason. But I could also view it through the lens of hey, if there's same thing with VAR. Say what you want about how it might be ruining soccer, like some of these things getting called back, it makes for tense moments late in games. Like the most exciting basketball games I've watched in the NBA have had a last minute ref, what's it call it? They've always, the most exciting endings to games have been when the game film gets turned over to New Jersey. I think it's where the replay center is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could also add a bit of excitement, but I think there needs to be that happy minimum where if a play gets down to the last, where you have to send it to New Jersey or wherever else you're sending the film to, the ref should be adept at handling the rule book and knowing what to call and when and how to let the game flow. It's all of that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not blaming the umpires because again, the Red Sox lost because
Yeah.
of themselves last night. But if they're up 5-2, like they probably should have been, that call really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But
You can play both
whatever.
ways.
They're back in 11 minutes. So Sale's on the mound today. They could still go up 3-2, but now they got to go back to Houston. So
Yeah, that's gonna
it
be
is
even
what
more
it is.
tough.
If they had won last night and then closed it out tonight, they wouldn't have had to go back to Houston. But now they do for at least one game. So we'll see. It's but again, they got Sale going today. He hasn't looked great lately. But let's go Sox again.
Let's go Sox.
And
Let's get after it.
and who knows? Maybe by this time next week. I mean, I know by this time next week, the World Series will actually have already been started.
It's crazy.
And maybe we get either a Dodgers Astros rematch or maybe a Mookie Betts revenge series still in play.
It's very, very fun to think about.
Yeah, or we could get the Braves and Red Sox, little Boston versus Boston, old timey, since the Braves used to play in Boston before they moved to Milwaukee and then Atlanta.
Either way you cut it, very interesting. That's why I said I've loved these playoffs to watch them. So far.
Astros Braves would be but
Yeah. Do we want to move on to football?
I want to get off to my chest.
Yeah, no. Well, before you get into the diatribe, for anyone that's wondering, I was editing in the sixth floor lounge. I think it was a couple nights ago, or
Sunday probably. Yeah.
Sunday, yeah, a couple nights ago. Yeah, actually, it was a few nights ago. Jerry comes in absolutely fuming, and I'll let him spare you the detail, or I'll spare you the details. I'll let him get into it, but very unhappy with the way his Pats have been playing this year.
It's just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like every single team has been getting more and more aggressive with the way they go for it on fourth down. The Patriots twice Sunday, just putting it away. Specifically, the one in overtime, it's 4th and 3. You haven't been able to stop the other offense all day. It's 4th and 3 at midfield. If you punt it away, you're basically just giving them the game. And they don't even bother to take a chance. They just punt it away, and Dallas in 6 plays goes down and scores. The Patriots never had a chance to stop them because the defense has been out there all day. Show signs of life. Every single team in the NFL has deemed 4th and less than 5 around midfield or in the opponent's territory. Unless you're in field goal range, you're going for it. It's not really even a question. The Patriots you went out and you spent all this money to bring in wide receivers and offensive linemen and tight ends, and the offensive line has stunk. But and you went out and you drafted a quarterback in the first round, and I get he's still a rookie and you're trying to develop him, but eventually I mean, we're over a third of the way through the season now, and you're 2-4. You're about to fall. Your season's still alive if you're 3-3. It's on life support if you're 2-4. Like, show a little urgency. Go for it. Act like you're going for the playoffs because you brought all these guys in with the intention of doing so. And eventually, we're 6 games in now. Eventually, you're going to pull the training wheels off Mac and just kind of let him do his thing. And they kind of started to do so late. But then he threw the pick, but then he threw the touchdown. And it's like, okay, well, there's something there. Let's build off this momentum and go for it. But you kill all momentum by just punting it away to your defense that hasn't been able to do anything all day.
Do you
and
think
they're gassed? They've been out there all day.
Do you think that the Patriots, if they get to the point where they make it to the playoffs, do you think they're suited for a late playoff run, or what are we thinking for a deep one?
At this point, no. I mean, and to begin the year, I never thought that they were. I mean, I joked around, but if we're being real, I never thought that they were Super Bowl contenders, right? Like I kept saying, like they'll be in the mix. They'll be in the mix. They'll be like 10-7, 11-6, 9-8, but they'll be pushing for a playoff spot. If they get in, they might win a game. Maybe they win 2. But I never seriously thought that they were going to be like shooing for the AFC Championship game at worst. But like, you've got to eventually like go for it because if you continue to play these games to not lose instead of playing to win, you're going to lose. And they keep finding ways to lose. And it's just, there's some bright spots on the team, but the offensive line has been bad. They continue to run the ball, and it's not like they're better when they throw it up tempo, the run to set up the play action, but they're not doing that. And it's frustrating.
To me, I wanted to get your opinion on this. How much of this do you think is the Patriots struggling to find an identity after Brady?
I think it's part of it. I think part of it too is that they're just scared of like well, number one, they don't want to get Matt killed by the offensive line's deficiencies of blocking defensive players. I think the other day when he got strip sacked by Gregory, like Gregory from the Cowboys just launched the offensive lineman to the side. Mac was going for play action, and by the time he had an opportunity to see it, it was too late. He got drilled. I don't think they want to get him killed, number one. I also don't think that if he starts to play poorly, if they let him loose, I don't think they want to kill his psyche. But at the same time, it's like if you're going for a playoff spot, you've gotta play like everybody else who's going for a playoff spot is. Like get a little aggressive every once in a while. Play to win. Go for it. You know what I mean? If an opportunity presents itself, instead of saying we're gonna have that opportunity later, go get it now. Just go get it now.
Yeah.
Because like you're like, oh, if we put it down to the Cowboys, like we'll pin them deep and then we can get good. Just go for it now. Don't even give them the ball back. Go down and score a touchdown. Your offenses look great in the fourth quarter. Just go.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's a similar thing to when you see. I don't know, it brings back to memory when Liverpool had that runaway season, and Pep at the helm of Man City was kind of like. He goes to the press conference, kind of puts his hands up like, oh, I don't know what to do. We're just not really going to compete anymore. It gives me that kind of vibe.
But it's different because it's not like you're falling out of it and you're like, I don't
know.
No,
but that's what I'm saying. That's what makes it worse in the situation with the Patriots. The Patriots are still well in the fold, and they still have the foundations of a team that can experiment, right? Like you said, Mac Jones has looked pretty good. Like
he's not doing anything to hurt them.
Yeah, like I think he has some upside. I think it's safe to say that the kid has some upside. I mean, he got Belichick's blessing, which is more than a lot of people can say, considering Belichick kind of he was in Brady's corner before anyone else was, right? So if you receive Belichick's blessing, you got to be doing something right. So you have room to experiment and to explore, and I think the Patriots, at the very least, if they don't want to be competitive this year and try to make it to the playoffs, the least they can do is explore and try to remap what this team's identity is, because I think that's what they're struggling the most. I think they have all these weapons, sure, but right now, I've always said this: talent doesn't always necessarily mean cohesive ball. They just need to figure out how to really have a go-to set of plays or a go-to offense that they like to run.
I think, and we got to wrap up, but I think what frustrates me the most is it's not like they're 2-4 and they're getting killed every game.
It's very close.
3, they fumbled at the 9-yard line down a point with like 3 minutes left. They just had to kick a field goal to win the game. They kicked the field goal against Tampa when they should have gone for it. And then last week, the defense melts down late on a 3rd and 25, and then the offense punts the ball away in overtime. And it's just like they are 2-4, but if they did 3 things, one thing from each game differently, they could be 5-1. And it's not going to work out every time, but like they've lost to some teams and they've been in it with teams like Dallas, with teams like Tampa that are good teams. They're going to be competing for the Super Bowl in 3 months. And it's just like you're there, but you keep coming up short because you keep not going for it and you're finding ways to lose games. And it's not what the Brady teams did. They never they found ways to win, not lose games. And yeah, but
Got to play with ferocity.
but they got to get going. They got to be the Jets this weekend and they got to go.
Hopefully. I mean, on paper, that should be a fairly simple task, but
yeah,
we'll see
they
what
got to go
happens.
and we got to go, unfortunately.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening to Pass Me the Rock. We'll be back next week at this exact time. I was a little bit late today, so that's why we only carved out a half hour, but usually we're here for the full hour. And yeah, we'll see you guys hopefully with some World Series updates, some more football updates. I know that the Canelo fight's supposed to be going on pretty soon, so I want to kind of preview that a little bit and whatever else is going on in the sports world.
Cool.
All right, guys. See you in the next one.
Thank you. All right, I gotta